Thanks, Jim. I guess the clock doesn't start until I start speaking, though, right? Okay. Did it? I'm Mark Hamby, founder and executive chief officer for Lamplighter Ministries. And I'd like to tell you a true story. It was 1977, and I hated to read. I could read, but reading to me was like throwing up. But that summer, everything would change. My first book, cover to cover, would be The Word of God. The second book would be a biography by D.L. Moody. And I learned a prayer that he prayed in that book, that the world has not yet seen what God can do through one man wholly committed unto him. And then I read the biography of George Mueller. And I learned that these great men and women of God had something in common. They loved the Word of God. Though George Mueller is known as a great man of prayer, what Moody did on his feet, Mueller did on his knees, but they also loved the Word of God. In fact, George Mueller read through the Bible 400 times in his lifetime. And from the time he was 71 till 92, he read through the Bible 4 times every year. I was learning and being influenced that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And if it's true that we're most alive when we're most connected to the Word of God, then how do we influence an image-saturated culture? I believe the way Jesus did, through stories. It was 1992 and the first treasure was found. The first book in a collection of rare books dating from the 16 to 1800s, but not just any kind of book. Books that were filled with biblical truth that could set one free. The first one was titled The Basket of Flowers. I began to read it to my 12-year-old daughter. And when it came to the part that drove me to my knees, I began to weep because I realized I did not possess what the father in the story did, godly wisdom. The story starts out with a father and the daughter in a garden, and the sun is rising. He's opening over a year ago, we experienced one. My wife and I were invited to be part of a strategic planning meeting at Focus on the Family, which was the same week that 200 people were laid off. And then it happened. Someone at Focus looked at me and said, "Have you ever considered adapting your books into radio drama?" 6 hours later, my wife and I met with writers, producers, and directors of award-winning Adventures in Odyssey, John Fornoff and Marshall Younger. John walked in with a huge smile and said, "I've read your mission, and I believe that God is calling me to help birth your vision of Lamplighter Theater." Lamplighter Theater was born that day, a year ago, September. Stephen Lee, founder and president of the largest Christian sermon MP3 company in the world, just wrote to me last week saying, after hearing the dramas, "These are truly lifetime achievements. I look forward to partnering with you so we can promote these life-changing dramas." Another listener just wrote, said, "Dear Mark, my 7-year-old daughter, years before we could produce another. But then something unexpected happened, as it always does in God's program. Our phones began to ring off the hook. Dennis Rainey of Family Life Today decided to re-air a 2-year-old radio interview that he did with me that focused on turning off the TV and reading our Lamplighter books. That interview, we were told, was the #1 revenue generator in the history of Family Life, as well as generating $150,000 for us in 48 hours. Enough to produce one more drama. I called our producer and I said, "Get the writers writing, London, here we come." 12 weeks later, we took a step in faith and recorded 2 more dramas. The lion was on the move, and we were waiting for further orders. God was about to do something new on the earth. And then it happened again. We're out of money, we can't do any more, and then Nancy Lee DeMoss decides to re-air a 2-year-old radio interview that she did with me. And in 10 minutes, we sold 1,000 books. I called the producers, I said, "We're on our way to Hollywood, get the writers writing." The door is now open to infiltrate Hollywood with the help of Tim Conway and John Rhys Davies of Lord of the Rings, and we produced an epic drama called Sir Malcolm and the Missing Prince. Out of money, New Year's Eve, Primetime America decides to re-air a year-old radio interview that they did with me, and the phones once again are ringing. It could not be denied. God, in whom nothing is impossible, was on the move. And it was time for us to lay all on the altar, all of it. We had found a treasure, and now it was time to buy the field and let everyone know about it. The radio campaign was launched. In 1 year, Lamplighter Theater, in 1 year, is now in 19 countries and over 1,000 stations. This is really a miracle.
The internal character development that can come from that. Lord, I pray that everyone here who takes a book, takes a CD, that they will be blessed by it and they will bless others by it as they leverage